First of all, before I talk about solar, I would like to congratulate all the women in this room and outside with the International Women's Day. With this formality done, let's talk about solar. The previous gentleman spoken about what's theoretically available and how the legal and organizational burdens can be handled. And I believe there is a clear understanding that it's not a simple process. We would like to just talk about how a property owner should approach a solar project to avoid as many troubles as possible and as many painful mistakes and possible losses. That's our major purpose. Okay, briefly about our agenda for today. First, we'll start with what has to be done even before you meet with their solar developer or solar salesman or whatever these people offering you solar project may like to call themselves. And I call this part a feasibility study. This is what do you have before you start selling it. This will bring us to their discussion of what are the ownership models of the solar project, meaning what role do you want to play as a property owner in the process, what kind of risks you want to take to yourself, and what do you want to allocate to somebody else. And only after that we'll talk about how to choose a developer for your project, so that you would know what to expect and what to ask for. I welcome questions along the way, but there will be also time at the end for any unanswered questions. Am I loud enough? Okay, good. So the first part, feasibility study. The two key questions. Is your building suitable for the solar project, and how it is suitable? You can theoretically put a solar system on any building. Question is how much it's going to generate you and how much it's going to cost. So how suitable is your building? And the second, which probably is even more important, is how involved as a property owner do you want to be in the whole project, and what you should expect in either case of your involvement. Feasibility study is often being questioned as if it's needed at all, or solar developers offer to do this work for you. But we advocate having a feasibility study done before you even meet any people offering systems. Why? It clarifies what options are available, what's your value. It's like when you intend to sell your property, you would like to do its assessment, because it will, all the pitfalls, all the imperfections will be known later on. But if you know them in advance, you can save your time and save your money. Also, when the property owner knows what's his roof about in terms of solar, it makes negotiations with the solar developers easier. It also attracts better developers, better in terms of professionalism. I've spoken with a number of developers who've been really annoyed with the low level of preparedness of property owners, who would demand something which is totally unrealistic because they heard something somewhere. Am I right, Kevin? So by having studied your roof, it's easier to become closer to your successful project. And to finish that, some developers offer a free assessment, and no offense, but free assessment is rarely unbiased and rarely free by the end of the day. Free assessment ties you up to a particular developer and creates a time commitment and long-term commitment. I suggest you learn first what you have and then talk to a developer. By the end of the day, both will win because of that. So, a few words about the first part of the feasibility study, which covers roof, how suitable it is. I'll go briefly. If there's any questions, I would gladly talk about it later. Roof should be oriented to south or southwest. Indeed, it's not a big issue if the roof is flat, but still it's easier if the main axles of the building go north-south. It makes life easy in terms of putting the system on top of it. Very roughly, 40,000 square feet of roof will allow for about 200 kilowatt system. There are different ways to measure the roof space, actual spot, the area needed to build the system, but that's what you could have in mind. Not all the roof can be used for the solar system, because there will be always some other equipment installed. There will be always a need to go onto the roof to do something for whatever reason. So if the overall roof of your building is, let's say, 40,000 square feet, do not expect to have it all covered with the solar system. Shading been addressed many times, and as David in the previous presentation told you, every small percentage you lose on a shade, you lose directly from your revenue. You cannot do much if there is a shade on the roof. There are some ways you can mitigate this risk, but the less shade you've got, the better it is. Roof condition, often overlooked. Talk about putting a system on a roof for 20 years. Preferably, you do not have to relocate this roof for roof repairs through this period. It can be done. System can be designed in a way that allows roof repairs. Can be done, designed in a way that you could relocate it temporarily or to one side of the roof or another side of the roof, but it all comes at a cost. It's a significant amount, both in terms of labor, in terms of possible roof usage, and you get additional traffic on the roof, so it doesn't really help to the membrane if people walk all over a roof. And by the time you relocate the system, most likely you'll lose your revenue. So, to keep it short, ideal roof would withstand 20 years without repairs. Actually, even after these 20 years, the roof better stand, because after 20 years, system will still be operational. And though the FEED program will most likely be closed by then, there will be no extensions after 20 years. But if the system can generate electricity in 20 years, it's a free icing on the cake. It's free electricity which comes from the system which is already being fully paid for. And in 20 years, luckily, current electricity rate would be, don't take my word for it, but I would guess about $0.50 per kilowatt hour as a realistic level in 20 years. Who knows, maybe even higher. And the last, but certainly not least, is the strength of the roof structure. Again, there are different technical solutions, different approaches how to deal with the roof, but ideal roof should be capable of carrying the system without being strengthened, and this translates into roughly 3 to 7 pounds per square foot. This is a ballpark number. There are different solutions, different ways to deal with it. It all comes at a cost. I'm talking about the simplest, cheapest solution which would generate you the highest return on investment. Any questions so far? Good. Okay, the second part of the, yes?
Your last slide showed 3 to 7 pounds per square foot load.
Yes.
Is that the same for ballasted and anchored?
No. Indeed, for an anchored system, you can have much less load, but that comes at the cost of penetrating through the membrane. Thank you for this question. It's hard to cover everything. Ballasted are simpler and is easier to deal with in terms of roof warranty. Anchored are lighter, but require more qualified installation, and I suggest involvement of the company which carries warranty for your membrane. Electrical side. First it was mechanical, now it's electrical. The question which was supposedly simple, was it expected to be easy and simple, is availability of capacity of the grid. It came out through the trial and error and the painful struggles that availability of the grid is the biggest issue which can derail your project. So to get the quick and easy answer from LDC before you even apply for the project. Now it is required, starting from recently, you've got to have this answered. We recommended to talk to your LDC even before. Second thing is the availability of the transmission line, electrical line which comes into your building. It determines what kind of system you could put in. Usually it's clearly described in the FEED program. Roughly, if you have a 4 kilowatt line, then you're good for a 250 on the roof. There are some requirements to the electrical room. First of all, there will be need to put additional equipment, mainly inverter, but also some other parts. And this inverter has to be delivered to the room. Not only being located there, it has to be delivered. And as you can see, this is a big inverter. It could be 1 megawatt. Rarely would be used such system on a roof, but it is a big equipment. You have to look at the corridors and corners and turns and doors, how it can be get into the building. Next. So this brings us to another major decision to be taken before you start your negotiations with the suppliers. How do you want to be involved with this project? The simplest is to just lease a roof, and the most complicated is to develop and own the system. There are lots of options in between. As a general rule, the more involved you are in the project, the higher are your risks and higher are your returns. Most companies would, in real estate business especially, would go for just a lease roof, but the good money comes with the ownership of the system. Many developers, in cooperation with the financial companies backing them, offer a combination of a lease and partial ownership, which might be a good win-win because it doesn't still keeps a developer on your side on the long term and offers you long-term significant financial returns. So, a few words about the lease option. Basically, you invite a company which installs, owns and operates the solar system and pays you lease payment. It is fixed per square foot. There is no capital investment, only organizational and legal fees at the beginning of the project. Expected returns are accordingly not very exciting, about $0.50 per square foot of used roof per year, meaning that on a typical system of 250 kilowatt, you might expect about $20,000 a year. Not really something to get too much excited about it, but it requires minimal work also. Risks with this system, though, with this approach, those seem to be absolutely minimal, but they are not. Everything which has to do with roof risks is present. Anything, if there's a leakage, if there is structural damage, if the roof traffic damages the membrane or even shortens its lifetime or voids your roof warranty or anything else which happens with the membrane, it's all your cost. And you've got to think about it carefully, have to see how you can mitigate it, either transfer it to a developer, to installer, or to get insurance, or to get your roofer involved. There are many ways to deal with that, but these risks are present and they are actual. There is a small risk of the default of your solar tenant, which brings you to the situation when there is a system installed on your roof and it's not clear who owns it and who is going to maintain it. This has to be dealt with the help of legal counsel. There hasn't been a single case of this kind of default so far, but I cannot exclude this kind of situation in the future. Another major option of developing a solar system is to own it, meaning that you invite the company who designs and develops and installs the system for you, but you own it. Thus, getting a contract with the OPA and collecting payments for the electricity delivered. I will make a statement which, please do not quote me on that. The investment required would be, in this case, about $5 to $6 per watt installed, but it depends on your roof and depends on your conditions. There are so many variables which I wouldn't be surprised to see this cost below $5,000 in certain cases and over $6,000 per kilowatt in other cases. There's no one size fits all. There are too many variables that have to be taken care of. Expected revenues, again, on the well set up system, you can expect to get revenues based on what David told in the previous presentation, roughly 11 to 1200 watt hours per watt installed, which translate to $8,000 to $900 per kilowatt per annum for a regular commercial scale system, meaning the system which works under their highest commercial scale tariff of 71.3 cents per kilowatt hour. Financially, it means your properly done system will generate the IRR of about 11%. May go higher, may go lower, but that's a ballpark number what you should reasonably expect. Indeed, you can leverage it to get higher returns. That's money widely is available to go as a debt and equity to support such projects. On the risks, indeed, you have all the risk which you had previously on the for the lease option. Everything to do with the roof stays. But in addition, you've got the whole group which we call performance risks, meaning that if the system does not deliver at the way it was supposed to, everything to do with the design, with the quality of installation, quality of material, everything still there. You can play with it, you can demand warranties from all parties involved and reasonably mitigate that. There are plenty of other feasibility factors which might affect performance of your system, and there are just too many to discuss, so I can talk about it probably forever. I will just go briefly through that. Installing a system, installation of system may impact your business one way or another. During the installation, after the installation, there might be conflicting uses for roof. You might even find out that by the time you've been dealing with your HVAC contractor, you have didn't bother much about roof and allocated the right to use the whole roof to this contractor, and now you might not even have the right of access to your roof. Has to be cleared. They're choosing between lease and own option. Availability of financing may play a great role. There may be other competing uses for available financing. Hear often that, hey, we can get more than 11% on other projects, for which I would say only, hey, can you guarantee it for 20 years? I do not know many projects which guarantee 11% over 20 years. There is always a marketing and shareholder value of greening your business. We've been requested by one client recently to set up a project in a way that it will be visible from the ground level, and I believe that's one of the reasons why Loyalty One has installed a carport along with the existing system on the roof. There can be other things which you have to think about, and it depends on the particular conditions, financial, organizational, the business of the company which installs it, many things. Yes?
The property taxes get involved. Would they increase then?
The discussion goes on and on. There have been many statements made about the fact that it should not affect property taxes, but it has to be taken care of. The key thing is that it should be installed as not a building improvement feature by no means, but as an additional equipment. It has to be done accurately from the legal side. It may affect property taxes in a different way. I've read research recently done in the States where they compared lease rates for the building which have implemented various green initiatives and have found that green buildings attract allow for a premium lease rates of about 3 to 6% atop of their average for the similar buildings in the same area. So this brings you to the higher revenue, which brings you to the higher taxes. Well, you can't have them all. Yes? By the end of the day, all risks are financial. There is nothing which cannot be done. There is nothing which cannot be mitigated. It has to be taken care of. So the most exciting part is how do you select a developer? Yes?
In a typical scenario with a lease option, who insures the solar equipment?
Who applies for insurance or who provides the insurance?
Well, does the developer take out a policy for 20 years on solar equipment?
I would if I were a developer, or maybe the one who necessarily develop, but the one who is going to own the equipment. Yes, indeed. The one who owns the property would like to have an insurance for it, because signing the FEED program, lucrative as it is, the equipment owner is obligated to deliver electricity, and if something goes wrong, he is not only losing his revenue, but he's also going into conflict with the OPE. So it has to be insured. Otherwise, I don't see how anybody could get financing for that.
And that policy would have to cover some damage to the owner's building if something occurred, a fire occurred in the mechanical room due to the inverter or something.
Well, I haven't heard a single case of fire occurring due to inverter or malfunction. It also would be located within electrical room typically. So I haven't heard of that. But it has to be taken care of. Whoever owns the equipment should carry insurance for it and for whatever might happen with it. By the end,
It's not just the equipment, it's the fact that that equipment could set the rest of the building on fire. So it's a liability issue as well.
right.
It's not just the loss of the equipment.
So if you allow somebody to bring equipment, so any other equipment into a building, would you require that party to provide insurance that this equipment will not damage the building? So that there's no difference. This is an industrial equipment. There's no magic about this equipment. It's like any other. Well, usually it would be energy-consuming equipment. Now it's energy-generating equipment. But by the end of the day, it's an industrial equipment. All rules apply. All rules of evaluating projects apply. It's an investment project. As David told in the previous presentation, there's hardly a sense to look at the most effective system, or the cheapest system, or the most advanced system. What makes sense to look at is the return on your investment for the particular system. You may get different ways, but by the end of the day, you're looking on to get money out of it, not to get fancy stuff. Well, unless you're just like fancy stuff. You would be surprised how many people go against general financial rules when it goes about with these solar systems. They just want it. So, developer selection. Well, I was a little bit ahead of myself. The combination is as with any investment project. It's a combination of risks and return which has to be evaluated, not any part of it. Doesn't matter how fancy the system is. By the end of the day, it generates you money. And it has to be assured, insured, protected by any means you could think of. For example, all panels which are worth talking about carry a warranty on their performance. Good panels have a warranty on their mismatch. There are other things to look at the panels itself, but also look at the warranty for your roof, for performance of the whole system, and indeed is the one who offers you a warranty actually worth this warranty? Is there a possibility to believe, is there a good reason to believe that in 20 years the same person, the same company will be still available? Which brings us to the third-party insurance again. Solar systems are almost maintenance-free, but still there is some maintenance needed, mainly to ensure that nothing extraordinary happened, like there was a damaged panel due to some vandalism, or there is a garbage bag sitting on the panel, or something else of this kind happen. Somebody has to do that. Somebody has to go up there and check if everything works fine. Who, when, how it is going to be done, how it might affect your other business and other equipment installed on the roof. And the last but not least, our existing market is volatile. There are many announcements coming monthly about new companies producing or preparing to manufacture different parts. On one hand, on another hand, OPA has got a fashion of issuing the contracts in bulks, not gradually every day, but just big chunks. These two contradicting trends put a pressure on the price or on all materials which go into the system, and the price which is valid today may be out of whack tomorrow. Not like out of whack by 20%, but you may easily expect a 3-5% difference within months, which comes to a significant amount of money, believe it or not. Okay. And the final point, the decision you make while you are setting up your their project is going to affect you at least for 20 years. It does make sense to think about it and to evaluate your options and evaluate possible suppliers and see how it can be done so you wouldn't have to redo it. That's all. I can see the signs coming that it's on already. Yes?
Yeah, just a few questions.
Just the one question, I tend to deal with the technical end of things, but one risk that I see is that there is a requirement to have Ontario content.
Right.
However, there is no infrastructure for knowing whether what you're having installed has Ontario content, other than the manufacturers say so. And that may sound like a pretty simple thing to figure out, but until you look at the intricacies of requiring Ontario content. So I'm just wondering how someone can protect themselves against an installation going in, buying it, and then at a later time, the OPA could review the system, go, actually, you don't have Ontario content. How do we, your contract is null and void. So I have no idea how a consumer would protect themselves against that problem. It's a bit of a wild west in that there is no body. So at Courtright, we approached the OPA and said, would you like to have a body going around and doing audits and making sure that these products that are saying Ontario content actually are? And they had no comment. And yet they reserved the right to enforce it later on so that's a risk that I see. Whether or not it could be happening.
Yeah, I suppose it's not a question, right?
Well, no, it's a question. How can, that's the situation. How can I manage the risk if I'm buying a system? Like, is there insurance I could buy against that? Can that be part of it?
Well,
It seems like someone here might have a comment.
I happen to know that the OPA had a couple of months back a request for proposals where we actually did pitch for people to come up and be auditors for exactly that same thing. So they're setting up an organization that will look into the Ontario content of these systems. That's going to happen.
Okay.